You can be completely right and still be completely ignored, and the reason is hiding in something you do every day without noticing. Right now, somewhere in the world, thousands of people may be facing a serious problem. You know that. You understand it, but emotionally, it barely touches you. Yet if you got a paper cut in the next 10 seconds, it would probably bother you for the rest of the afternoon. That doesn't make you selfish, it makes you human. And it reveals one of the most important truths about dealing with people. Every person you meet is living at the center of their own world, including the person you're trying to persuade. Once you understand that, everything changes. Think about it. Most people are more concerned about a small problem in their own life than a major problem happening far away. They're focused on their goals, their worries, their frustrations, their dreams, their challenges, just like you are. And that's why so many conversations fail before they even begin. Because we walk in talking about what we want, what we need, what matters to us. Meanwhile, the other person is focused on something entirely different. The conversation misses because it's aimed at the wrong target. Think about the last time you tried to get someone to do something. Maybe you explained all the reasons it mattered. Maybe you carefully laid out your logic. Maybe you made what seemed like a convincing case and still nothing happened. Why? Because your reasons were about you. The other person was tuned into a different station entirely. Their own concerns, their own priorities, their own interests. You were speaking, but they weren't listening. Now imagine approaching the situation differently. Before asking anyone for anything, you stop and ask a simple question. Why would they want this? Not why you want it. Why would they? How would it help them? What problem would it solve? What goal would it move them toward? What fear would it reduce? That question sounds simple, but very few people take the time to answer it honestly. One highly successful persuader once said he would rather spend an hour outside someone's office figuring out what that person wanted than walk in unprepared. Because once you understand what matters to them, the conversation becomes dramatically easier. Consider a parent trying to convince a child to eat dinner. The parent talks about nutrition, health, growing bodies. All perfectly reasonable points. But the child doesn't care about any of those things. The child cares about being bigger than the kid next door, running faster, feeling stronger, winning. The moment the parent speaks to those desires instead, everything changes. The dinner hasn't changed. The child hasn't changed. Only the point of view has changed. And that's often the difference between resistance and cooperation. Of course, there's an important distinction here. Seeing things from another person's perspective does not mean agreeing with them. It doesn't mean surrendering your beliefs. It doesn't mean pretending they're right when they're not. It simply means understanding. Understanding why a reasonable person might feel the way they do. Understanding how the world looks through their eyes. Understanding what experiences brought them to that conclusion. And something remarkable happens when people feel understood. Their defenses begin to lower. Their resistance starts to soften. The conversation becomes less of a battle and more of a partnership because you're no longer standing across from them. You're standing beside them, looking at the problem together. Most people never do this. They're too busy focusing on their own concerns, their own paper cuts, their own priorities. As a result, they spend years wondering why people resist them, why conversations stall, why their arguments fail. The answer is usually simpler than they think. They're starting from their own point of view instead of the other person's. So the next time you need to influence someone, pause for a moment. Step into their world. Ask what they want. Ask what they fear. Ask why their position makes sense to them. Then begin there. Because success with people comes down to one skill above all others. The ability to understand another person's point of view as clearly as your own.